$19 billion, gone in a day. October 10th, 2025, the biggest forced wipeout in this wasteland's history. 3.2 billion of it vanished in one single minute. And here is the part that should keep you up at night. The warning light had been flashing for 4 days. Not hidden, not encrypted, sitting in public on a gauge most traders never learn to read. It is called the funding rate, the quiet fee that ties this entire market together. And tonight I am teaching you to read it like a scout reads smoke on the horizon. This is part 9 of the survival series. Eyes on the gauge. Load the briefing. First, understand the ground. Most of this market is not people buying coins. Roughly 3/4 of every dollar traded in crypto trades as a perpetual future, a perp. A bet on the price with borrowed muscle that never expires. $7.24 trillion of it in 1 month. That is the machine now. Price discovery, leverage, the violence and the opportunity, it all lives in perps. But a contract that never expires has a design problem. A normal future gets dragged back to reality on its settlement day. A perp has no settlement day. Nothing forces its price to match the real coin ever. So the engineers welded on a tether, a small, relentless fee that yanks the perp back toward the real price, around the clock forever. That tether is the funding rate. Learn it, and the whole board starts talking to you. Here is the whole mechanism, no jargon. Every perp has 2 prices in play, the perp's own price and the real market price of the coin underneath it. When the perp trades above the real price, it means the longs, the buyers, are crowding the trade. So the market charges them rent. Every 8 hours on most venues, everyone holding a long position pays a small fee, and that fee goes straight to the shorts. Not to the exchange, to the traders on the other side. Peer to peer. Flip it, perp trading below the real price, shorts crowding in, now the shorts pay the longs. The baseline is tiny. Around 1/100% per 8-hour cycle. Sounds like nothing. It is not nothing, we will get to that. The genius of it. The fee makes the crowded side expensive and the empty side profitable. Longs paying rent get squeezed towards selling. Shorts collecting rent get paid to lean against the crowd. The tether pulls the perp back toward reality, automatically, without anyone in charge. That is the funding rate. A price-truth machine. And like every machine in this wasteland, it doubles as a gauge, because the size of that fee tells you exactly how hard one side is leaning. Now the literacy. 3 states on the gauge. Funding positive and climbing, longs are paying rent and paying more of it. The crowd is leaning bullish and leaning harder. The trade is getting crowded on one side of the boat. Funding negative, shorts are paying. Fear is crowded, everyone on that side of the boat. Funding near zero, balance. Nobody paying much of anything. A calm gauge. Here is what the gauge actually tells you, and listen close, because this is the line between intel and fantasy. Funding tells you positioning. Where the crowd is, how hard they are leaning and what they are paying to stay there. That is real and it is priceless. What it does not tell you is when anything happens. A crowded trade can stay crowded for months. A redlined gauge is not a countdown clock. It is pressure on a boiler. It tells you the pipe is stressed. It never tells you the day the pipe bursts. Pressure, never prophecy. Say it back to me. Now watch the October tape with trained eyes. Early October 2025. The market is euphoric, new highs, everyone long, everyone leveraged. And the gauge, by October 6th, funding on the big coin is running near 30% annualized. Read that right. The crowd was paying rent at a 30% yearly clip just to stay in the trade. The boiler was screaming for 4 days. October 10th. Bad news hits, a tariff shock, the spark. But sparks land every week. What turned a spark into a firestorm was the pressure already in the pipe. Overcrowded longs start getting liquidated. Forced sellers push the price down. Lower prices liquidate more longs. The doom loop. In 40 minutes, the order books thin out by 98%. At the worst minute, $3.2 billion of positions vanish in 60 seconds. By the end, more than 19 billion gone, and roughly 9 in 10 of the wiped out positions were longs. The crowded side of the boat. The gauge did not predict the day. No gauge does. But everyone who could read it knew the pipe was stressed and had 4 days to check their own pressure. That is what telemetry buys you, not certainty, time. The crash is the loud lesson. Here is the quiet one, the one from the quiet math briefing, wearing a new uniform. That baseline fee, 1/100%, 3 times a day compounds. Hold a position on the crowded side for a month at elevated funding, and you have paid a real toll before the price moves an inch. Traders bleed out this way constantly. Not liquidated, not wrong on direction. Just slowly billed to death for standing in the popular line, and they never once checked the meter. And the same math runs in reverse. The trader on the empty side of a lopsided market is collecting that rent. I'm not telling you to take either side, hear me clearly. That is your war, not mine. I am telling you that every hour you hold a perp, money is flowing one direction or the other underneath you, and the gauge shows you which way, to the decimal, for free. After October, the whole market deleveraged, open interest down 40% from the highs, funding back to calm. The meter reset. It will redline again. It always does. The literacy checklist. 5 reads, same discipline as the wasteland briefing, run them in order every time you even look at a perp. Read 1, the level, whereas funding right now, calm, elevated, or screaming. Read 2, the direction, rising or cooling. A gauge climbing for days is a crowd still piling in. Read 3, the duration. An hour of hot funding is noise. A week of it is a regime. Read 4, the divergence. Price flat while funding climbs. Leverage is building with no progress to show for it, stress with nothing to hold it up. Read 5, the breadth. One venue running hot is a local story. Every venue hot at once, that is the whole wasteland leaning the same way. 5 reads, maybe 2 minutes with a free public chart. And then say it with me, pressure, never prophecy. The reads tell you the condition of the ground. They do not tell you where to drive. Nothing does. Anyone who says otherwise is selling you a map to a minefield. Now the 5 reads work barehanded. I just gave you the free version and it is yours forever. But running them across the whole board, every venue, every hour, that is a full-time post. So the forge built the tower. Every funding rate in the wasteland on one wall, who pays, who collects, hour by hour. The board reads every venue so you don't squint at them one by one. The sitrep runs funding heat, 1 read. Cool or cooking, longs paying or shorts paying, and roughly what that costs a year. The funding monitor rides the war ledger lookbacks, thresholds, free, right in the browser. It does not tell you what to trade. It does not tell you when. Nothing in this wasteland gets to promise that, and now you know exactly why. Pressure, never prophecy. What it does is keep the gauges on one wall, read at machine speed, so the 2-minute discipline costs you seconds every venue, every hour before your money moves. The forge reads. You sign. Walk the tower, DeFi Warlord Forge.app. The link is below, standing at the front of the column. Briefing ends. Say the verdict back to me. Perps run this market, 3/4 of everything. The funding rate is the tether that keeps them honest, and the tether doubles as a gauge. Positive means crowded longs, negative means crowded fear, and a redline gauge means pressure in the pipe, pressure, never prophecy. 5 reads, level, direction, duration, divergence, breadth, 2 minutes, every time. Your marching orders, subscribe and ring the bell. The next briefing should find you before the next redline does. Hit the like. Then fall in with the squad. The DeFi Warlords Telegram chat and the announcements channel are linked below next to the forge. Next briefing, new ground, same war. The wasteland never runs out of lessons. Be here. That's the briefing, squad. Read before you touch out there. Subscribe. Turn bell notifications on. Join our DeFi Warlords home base, link in the description. And salute to the squad.